Breezy says, speaking of repairs, I have a 2002 Suzuki 115. It starts and runs perfectly. However, the infamous but. However, it does not respond to high idle, won't shift gears, and doesn't have any throttle response. It looks to be all electronic, and I have no idea what to do. It is sitting on an engine stand. Any thoughts or ideas? So it's a 2002, so it's not electrical. So, if we're talking about a 2002 engine here, we're not talking about digital electronic control. Most likely there's still a throttle cable on there to move the throttle plates. It does not respond to high idle. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Like, if your engine's on a stand, you can't rev it up. Like, most of them have an over rev protection in neutral. It won't shift gears. That's a different issue. It should shift gears when you start and run it. So it should have analog controls. You should be able to see where the cables go on. There should be a little lever there. If it's not shifting when it's running, then, or even not running, it's all mechanical. You should be able to grab the lever or the shift mechanism, move it forward, back, kick the prop. It should go into gear. So if it's not doing that, you've got something else going on, like you missed the shift rod or something. If the lower unit was off, the high idle, I'm not really sure. Starts and runs perfectly. However, it doesn't respond to high idle. I think something else might be going on there. I mean, I don't think a 2002 Suzuki had digital electronic controls. Pretty sure they're all analog. Could be wrong, but Michael Anderson says, what's your thoughts on going up motor size on tunes? Say going from a 40 to a 60 horsepower. Why not? I mean, I'm always a fan of more power. I'd rather have power and not need it than not have power and need it. And then anything that's like a model family. So if you think about horsepower engines with outboards, they all come basically in families. So like families of horsepower, you've got your 2.5 to like the 4, you got like 5, 6, 9.9, you got a 15, 20, 30, you've got a 40, 50, 60, you've got a 75, 90, 115, you've got 150, 175, 200, you got a 225, or different engine manufacturers might have a 200 and a 225, a 250 up to a 300, 250, 275, 300, a 350, 400, like 350 to 450. There are like sections of horsepower ranges based on the platform of the engine. A 40, 50, 60 is generally either a 3-cylinder or a 4-cylinder engine, and that family is going to be the same. So the 40 is going to have the same weight as the 60. The 40, 50, 60 is generally just going to be the same deal. You're just getting more horsepower, which means you can run a different propeller, which is going to give you better performance. So 100%, I would go up in power any day of the week if it was an option. I'd rather have a 60 than a 40, and I'd rather have, a 115 than a 75, especially when it's all the same. So depending on the restrictions based on the type of pontoon, more power is better in my opinion. And if you don't change classes or family of engines, like it's a big deal to go from a 40 to a 75, because usually, like, let's say the 40 horse is a 3-cylinder and the 75 is a 4-cylinder. Big difference in the weight of the engine. So, that becomes a massive factor. But if you're within the same class family, go for as much as you can get, honestly. Blow JMJ says, is dropping to 0 psi on individual injector pulse an issue for the fuel pump flow? I'm not sure what you're really asking here. Individual injector pulse. So if you're talking about doing like a test, so let's say you're testing injectors. You're trying to test injectors. You turn the key on and you've got 45 psi of fuel pressure on the rail, and then the key, and then it stays like that for a couple seconds. Key on, engine not running. It should hold that 45 for a little bit. If you run the injector pulse test, like you run the injector, the pressure is going to go down because it's opening the injector, losing the pressure as it blows it in there. That's a good way to check for a stuck injector. So if like you turn the key on, boom, you got 45 psi of fuel pressure, you run an injector pulse and your pressure doesn't change, that injector's stuck closed because it's not letting the fuel go by. So dropping to 0 psi on an individual injector, if the engine's not running, then no, that's the way it should work. If the engine's running and you're losing fuel pressure, that's not because the injectors are opening and closing. Your fuel pump should continue to keep the fuel pressure regardless of the injectors going open, because you're consuming fuel, you're burning fuel, and the injectors or the fuel pumps going to make fuel pressure all the time. The pressure regulator is going to maintain that pressure, but you're not going to lose fuel pressure because the injectors are running when the engine's running. If that fuel pump's on, you shouldn't lose fuel pressure regardless of what's happening, unless you got a problem. Now, the fuel flow is completely different. The injectors don't have any effect on the fuel flow. Unless there is an injector that is stuck open, but that's going to give you different issues. It's not really going to lose. You generally won't lose fuel pressure because you have a stuck injector open. It's just going to flood that cylinder out, and you're going to have a misfire because that cylinder is going to be a dead cylinder. It's not going to be producing power because it's just flooding out with fuel. So kind of confused about what you're really talking about, but that's kind of a little bit of an overview of injectors, how they work, the fuel pump, the fuel flow. The only thing that's going to affect that is the lift pump not being able to get fuel from the fuel tank, whatever the case may be, restrictions, air leaks, pinched hoses, whatever the case may be, no fuel, any of that problem. If the lift pump can't get the fuel from there to fill the VST, then that's going to affect your flow. Or a dirty screen on the bottom of the high pressure fuel pump, that'll restrict the volume of fuel. Again, volume and pressure are not the same thing. Hey there, sorry to take you away from the video, but real quick, did you know that on average a boat owner will spend between $1,000 and $5,000 a year just on servicing their engine? And you could actually pocket and save a lot of that money if you would just do the service yourself. It might seem like a daunting task, but I guarantee you virtually everyone can do it with our guidance and the Boaters program. This is just one skill that you could learn inside the program, because we have hundreds of other videos teaching you all kinds of boating skills, as well as a weekly live stream where we have questions and answers with me, as well as a chat feature where you can send videos and pictures, ask all kinds of questions, or look for some advice or some guidance on a project that you're doing on your boat. You can join the program by hitting the first link in the description, clicking join, or visiting bornagainboating.com. Now back to the video.